Hello, everyone. This is Keith with the Farm to Table Direct Show. And we've got a special interview with a friend of mine named Leah. Leah, remind me of your last name.
Cresswell.
Say it again?
Cresswell.
Cresswell. Cresswell.
Yes.
Okay. We're actually neighbors, and we have some in common friends that we just recently learned about. But anyway, she is the content creator for a YouTube channel called Homestead in a Box, and we've been watching her show off and on, since we discovered her, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. And of course, my son is here with me, Josh, also known as the boss, and we are going to ask a few questions here and get to know who Leah is. Leah, I'm gonna start off by asking, what motivated you to get into the homesteading? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about why you started? Because one of the things I know about you is you were a nomad.
Yes.
Right? And then you settled down. So I mean, that's like from this part of the scale all the way to the other part of the scale.
It is. So my husband and I, we were nomads. We travel across country. The country is very small, actually. You can get from one side to the other pretty quickly. And really, my husband, we had just got to have a conversation about the food system, and about how broken the food system really is, and the importance of, we were living in an 18-wheeler traveling the country, but we wanted to settle down and be able to secure our food and grow our food for us. That way we weren't reliant on anybody else out there for those things. So, I mean, that is one of the biggest motivators. Was whenever we had talked earlier, whenever COVID had happened, right, and the shelves were empty and, things like that. Not that we started anything out of fear, but that's scary. When you go in to get a dozen eggs and there's no dozen eggs there, it makes anybody nervous. So we didn't want to be in that situation, and we just kind of were like, well, at this point, let's just look out for us and, let's, settle down. And so we made the decision driving down the road, and, we didn't want to be in a situation to where, we mentioned earlier, people were scrounging for toilet paper and things, and right, they were if you didn't have a relationship with the local farmer during COVID, you probably were you were only allowed to buy one package of meat or something at a time, and we didn't want to be that way. We didn't want to have to rely on anybody else but ourselves. So if that didn't motivate you, so that was a major push and motivation to come home and, to just start, homesteading, doing what we do, So that was our number one pusher. Was we wanted to be able to eat good quality food for a long time. And you can read as many books and you can watch everybody on YouTube, but until you get there and you just get your hands in it, that's the best way to do it. So that was what motivated us to come home and for me to start that. Right.
And so you mentioned something a little bit earlier about you didn't really start it out of fear. And hey, this is something that I really want to point out is that, you don't have to go full scale homestead off grid. And you don't have to do it out of fear. But talk to us a little bit about, maybe, what people can do just simply to prepare for anything that's unexpected.
Yeah, well, we live in Oklahoma and we have natural disasters all the time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you take away any political aspect of it or anything, just for natural disasters. Right. We have flooding, we have tornadoes, we have, all of those things, and it is good to be prepared for that in any aspect, whether it be with, having water storage, having canned green beans on your shelf, and not for you, but what about if you had family members in Texas when the hurricanes came through and they lost everything, but you've been at home harvesting your food, canning your food, and you're able to take that food and to help your family because, they lost all of theirs during a hurricane. So right, not starting things out of fear, during COVID, a lot of people, that struck fear in people, and it made people, really question how to get their food and things like that. And I think a lot of people ran out there and started, and a lot of those people aren't doing it anymore. They think that, oh,
That's
we're fine
interesting,
now,
isn't it?
you know, like
Right.
everything's okay, because it's hard work, you know. It's not easy all the time at all. Go ahead.
So do you keep up with any of the like political things that's going on around the world, like maybe the attack on farmers in not Ukraine? I got Ukraine on the brain, but in the Netherlands and some of the different things.
My
that
husband
they're-
does. I
Oh,
do
that's
not
his
yet.
part, huh?
That is totally his part. I do not watch it because
Right.
in the reality of it, it's very easy for fear to creep into anybody. And I know me, and if I watch the news, you know, every single morning, it will strike fear in you. Like, it, not that it will strike fear in me, but it has the ability to strike fear into people. So I do not. However, my husband does, and he keeps me up to date. And I mean, I don't think that it's right by any means, like what is occurring, you know, shutting farms down and things like that. But I mean, and again, not to be, I am the furthest thing from political, okay? But I mean, the last person to tell you what you can, that what you can and can't grow, sell, or eat should be, you know, the government telling you what you can. Like, we're probably the most feared because we don't rely on them, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. To me, like, I see, like, prepping. I've been prepping for many years, and in your instance, you're more self-sufficient. So the more you're able to produce on your own or have stocked up, it seems like the less fearful I am when
Absolutely.
something does happen.
Yeah.
So, you know. So
Yeah,
that's-
knowing that you have, you know, well, we can even use last year's drought, you know, where we lived, my ground was cracking, you know. I mean, people didn't get harvest last year, but they had that. They ate because of the harvest that they had preserved, you know, the year before, you know. I mean, so always having something as a backup, prepping, or, you know, however, whatever people want to verbiage it as, you know. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, if there's, again, natural disasters, I use that as a big thing, you know. You don't think about it in the government way. Look at it as in a natural disaster way. Like, if tornadoes were to come wipe out everybody but your house, because it can do that, wouldn't you feel so much? Like, I go to bed every single night knowing that I have food growing out in my yard. I have freezers with food, you know. I mean, and it's a secured feeling, you know. Like, it's, if something, we were to go on lockdowns and we weren't able to, you know, go to the grocery stores or anything like that, like, I would be okay, you know. I mean,
So would you say that, I mean, I have my own opinion about it, but would you say that, like, I don't know, you're much younger than me, but 90s, early 2000s, that the American people kind of had this idea that nothing could ever happen until like 9/11 happened, for example.
oh yeah, yeah,
And then you're like, oh my God, this was the place that was so safe.
yeah.
And then, so, you know, I think at that time I began to think that I was in a false sense of security. And then I think after COVID-19, I thought, I'm in a false sense of food security,
Absolutely.
you know? And I just wonder what your thoughts was on you know, kind of that as it relates to, you know, why people should prepare. Not you know, don't run out with your hair on fire, worried
Yeah,
about
well,
everything.
here's
but
the biggest
just
argument there is, like, do you, and this gets a lot of heat, but what kind of food do you want to eat? I mean, have you gone to the grocery store and, like, I mean, I do not watch the news, but I do get Google headlines, okay?
Okay.
You know, and and so, like, I mean, have you seen the things, I shared a reel here a while back on Facebook about how it's not even real meat. They're putting a compound in meat to make fake meat. Like, so when it comes down to just the independence of the food system, it is very, very broken, you know. However, I mean, when you go to the grocery store, like, you're not really getting nutrient dense food. Like, you're not really getting, to me, it's not real food, you know. So to grow the real food. You know, I mean, you have to grow the real food to
Right,
me.
yeah,
Like,
no, I totally agree. You actually know what you're growing
Yeah.
and what's going into your body versus that list of 50 items on an ingredients box
well,
that you
you're
have
not
no
reliant on
idea
them.
what they are. Either.
You're not relying on them. If you're reliant on the local grocery store, what are you going to do one day when you go in and they say, well, the only thing you're going to be able to buy today is cheese, macaroni noodles, and chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
And only one pack. You know, I mean, what are you going to, I mean, if you're reliant on those people, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to Google the food system, and more people are waking up to how broken our food system is, and the food that they put out, it's not even real food.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
Like,
We just did a episode on the podcast last week about, you know, the fake meats and their push, the government's push for people to eat bugs, to eat insects.
I know. I'm not on Survivor yet.
Yeah,
okay?
I know, exactly. Well, spoiler alert for anyone who ain't watched that episode yet, I brought in some edible bugs from Amazon for the show for them to try it. I didn't tell them beforehand, but let's just say it's not very tasty. So having your own homestead to be able to get your own meat, that's pretty important.
Yeah, you're not reliant on them. You aren't reliant on the people who are breaking the food system. You know, I mean, and I think that's probably another one of the leading factors. What drove us to do what we do is because my husband doesn't like being told what to do, and so
Nobody does.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we don't want to be told this is what you have to buy. You know, and so if you grow it all yourself, I'm growing it, so.
Right. So, you know, there's just to recap a little bit, you know, it's not just because we're afraid that something terrible is going to happen, but we're prepared for the unexpected, but also knowing where your food comes from, what's in it, you know, what kind of hormones or what type of shots has been given to a cow, for example, anything, herbicides, all of that stuff. I mean, so those are two very good upsides. Now I want to kind of swing it around in a different direction, Leah. I picked up on the fact that I guess you don't have children.
I do not know.
I want to talk a little bit about your farm.
Okay.
And one of the things that I noticed is that you love your animals.
Oh, I'm super passionate about them. Those are my children.
Right. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about the type of animals that you're raising? And I've got a couple of questions to follow up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, oh gosh, right now we just have our backyard flock chickens, and then every year we run meat birds across our property. We do grass-fed meat birds, and then I have meat rabbits, and then and they're just a Tamic breed. My chickens are a Delaware and a Black Star. They were the original meat birds before Purdue came in and created the Cornish cross.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, dual purpose, meat and egg layers. And then I have my rabbits for meat purposes, things like that. And then I have turkeys. That's what I have. That's what I have right now. So, and then I've raised pigs and things like that. But
right. And I don't want to get too personal.
Oh no, you're good.
But Tina and Tammy.
Oh,
You broke my heart with Tina and Tammy.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? And one of the things that you really mentioned that maybe a lot of people don't think about is that, you know, death on the farm.
Yeah, nobody talks about it.
Right.
Yeah, look, Tina and Tammy makes me tear up thinking about it. So I've been a pig person my whole life. I showed them in high school, you know, and when I got Tina and Tammy, I was like, it'll be fine, you know, like we'll be able to harvest them and put them in our freezer, you know. And it really just came down to the day of, like, I hunted around Poto to find somebody that would come to my farm, you know, and it is something that gets overlooked. Like, you take the time. Look, it makes me emotional, but you take the time to raise these animals, and like the one thing that I always say, there's a legacy I want to leave, and it's that she worked hard and she stewarded her land well, you know, like I did it well, and my animals, you know, and you know, if you treat, like, the way I feel about it is whatever energy that you put into your animals is whatever energy they're going to put back into you when you go to consume them. And so why would you not give them that hands down best life? Like, Tina and Tammy were really, well, any animal is really hard. Like, I had to harvest. Last year we had purchased 20 bourbon red turkeys, you know, and my husband, he still drives, and so I had to harvest those all by myself. Like, when you're the only person waking up every morning and taking care of them and making sure they're good, you know, and then it comes to harvesting them, like, it's not easy, but it really just boils down to the fact of, like, what do I want to eat? You know, what do I want to consume? With every animal harvested on our property, I thank it for the life that it's given me and the enjoyment and the, you know, I mean, I enjoy them. You know, if you watch my channel, you know I have Guy, you know, I mean, he's my turkey, you know, I mean, but they're there to serve a purpose, you know, and I knew that going into it, you know, and that is the aspect, the outlook that I have on it is every animal on the farm has a purpose, and it's because I choose, you know, people always, there's it's not very true, but there's a era or a whatever around homesteading, like it's for poor people, you know, like poor people farm and poor people, and I'm like, listen, I'll trade you my feed bill. You know, like, let's switch up feed bills for a minute. It's like someone went to Carmart with a bad credit score, you know. Like, I mean, it's expensive feed bill, you know. But you do that because you want to know what you're actually eating. Have you ever had fresh pork versus the grocery store pork? I mean, there's a huge difference, you know, in the flavor and the taste of it, and so it really just kind of, even harvesting chickens, you know, we harvest quite a few of chickens at a time, and it's never an easy day. I wake up, I mean, she's over here, but I'm moody, you know. Every time when we harvest, I get a little moody about it because, I mean, it's not anything that I want to do because I pour my love into them. Homesteading is a labor of love, you know, and it's a labor of love for your land and for your animals and for yourself, you know. And so harvesting any animal, it's not ever easy whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it's important to raise your animals with love and respect, you know, because a lot of places, a lot of meat that you buy on the grocery shelf, it's not always like that.
No,
So
animals
I understand that.
Well, and for me, like, my biggest thing is, you know, pigs aren't supposed to grow up on concrete. You know, like, they're meant to be on dirt and soil, and chickens aren't meant to be raised in cages, you know, like, they're meant to be in my yard pecking bugs and grass, you know. And so for me, I want to give those animals the life that I think that they deserve, you know. And you know, there's a hormone in animals if they're stressed before you harvest them, they'll release that hormone into the meat, and it'll cause that meat to taste different.
Yeah, that's why the deer shot when you're deer hunting, you know, that's pretty important because, you know, if you can get a quick kill, the meat tends to taste better because that hormone doesn't have time to release. Yeah,
it's like a stress hormone they release. That was really important for me whenever I harvested Tina and Tammy, to find someone to come to my farm and to put them down on my farm. That way I didn't have to drive them all the way to the following town or anything like that. You know, they came to my farm, they did it there, and then they hauled them to the butcher. So
I have a quick question. When we were just kind of chatting before, you mentioned something, and I was curious myself. You said that you use the rabbit compost to fertilize your garden.
Absolutely,
so
it's amazing.
Can you tell me, like, the process of that? Because, you know, I'm pretty interested in learning.
So whenever I moved where we live now, like, I joke about it on my YouTube channel all the time, one of the main things we produce is rocks, okay? So, like, and we live right on top of a hill, you know? And so obviously when it rains, all of my, you know, when I first put my gardens in versus what I knew now, I would have done them completely different. But again, that's blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm not moving those. You know, like, we're gonna make it work, you know. So anyway, I take just natural native soil, and where I'm at is pretty rocky, sandy, you know, mixture, depending on where you get it from. And then I just amend that with rabbit manure. So I just toss rabbit manure in it. I just had a video where I grew potatoes. And when I did my trash bags and potatoes, I just did a layer of native soil, a layer of rabbit compost, you know, or just rabbit manure, because rabbit manure is it's water soluble. So like your plants aren't really going to get too much of it, you know. I mean, they're going to take up what they need, but it's like one of the only manures that you can put on hot. You know, like absolutely, yeah, like chicken has to sit, horse has to sit, cow has to sit, and I take it straight from under the rabbit cages and put it right in the soil.
That's
and
good information to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it amends it. I mean, in the NPK ratio, I can't tell you the exact numbers. It's like 2.5, 1.2 something. It has really great NPK ratios for your soil. Just naturally, yeah. And
now, do you put that on like when you first amend the soil?
So like every season I'll amend my beds and what I do is I go in and I'll like take leaf mulch and I'll take manure and I'll top those, and I do all no-till. We don't use any till at our place. And so I have like a little garden, little 6-inch tiller that I'll kind of get in there and mix it up and stuff with. But yeah, so I'll do that at the beginning of the season, and then I kind of like, some people have like, I am not a very structured gardener. I'm just like, hey, we're going to try this, you know? And so I then feed everything. Probably I would like to say like on an every 2-week schedule, but that's not the truth. It's more like once a month. I make a rabbit compost tea. And y'all are local, so if you ever need some rabbit manure, holler. yeah, I have plenty. But and I just make a compost tea, and then I just pour it on my plants, you know. And everything, I'm not super expertise in it, you know, but what I've tried has worked for me. I do not believe there's black and white in gardening. You know, I think that there's a lot of leniency in a lot of places. And for me, I had went to Fort Smith and purchased compost my first year. It was great. It was a little expensive a load, but it was great. My second year, it was double the price and all wood chips, you know, and like my plants, like last year, it was last summer, you know, my pumpkins and my peppers really just did not do anything. Like they would grow this tall and then they would just not, you know. So I was like, well, instead of buying soil, because that can get expensive, you know, I'm just going to try to amend my own, and fingers crossed this far it's working. My potatoes did really good, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah, I've seen that. You had 100 pounds of potatoes.
Or 10 pounds. 10 pounds.
Was it 10?
Yeah, and I actually...
Did you say 100, or did I just mismemorize
well,
that?
my goal was like 100 at one point to do 100 pounds.
That's a lot.
I wanted to be able to do... So I went to my grocery list, and I was like, what do you buy the most of? You know, because there's no sense in growing things that you don't eat.
Right.
You know, and so potatoes, garlic, and onion were something staples that I buy from the grocery store. And so our mutual friend sent me the video about the trash bag potatoes, so I did that, and then it worked out great, you know. I mean, and that's my whole thing on growing food. Like, I grew potatoes in trash bags, you know. I got 10 pounds out of like 1.5 bags is what it was, but I still have like 7 bags to
Andy
harvest.
said he was doing that also.
He is.
Our friend Andy Barnes. Hi, Andy.
Yeah, hi, Andy. Yeah.
And so if you had any like tips for somebody who wanted to just begin, because you remember it wasn't so long ago.
Oh yeah, I just had a
began
conversation
that
earlier with somebody.
journey.
Yeah.
What would you tell people to start, and then kind of address a little bit about when you do something like urban gardening,
Okay.
and then like more like what you do. In other words, you can start wherever you are. You can actually start.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's one of my things that I tried over the winter to get people to grow food this winter. Like, people have no idea you can grow food in Oklahoma all year long. Like, you can grow every season, you know. And you can start where you're at for sure. I tried to get people to grow lettuce out of a recycled lettuce container. You know, like, go get you the bin of lettuce, poke holes in but once you eat that lettuce, that's fine. Poke holes in the bottom, put some soil in it, and grow some more lettuce, you know, because it doesn't have to be expensive. I like I said, I grew potatoes in trash baggies,
right.
You know. No matter where you're at, you can grow food. I follow some girls out of Illinois who homestead out of an apartment, okay? They have quail and rabbits on their balcony. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's a way of life. It's not, like, people think that you have to have 7, 10, 20, 50 acres. They think that you have to have land, that you have to have all of these things, and you don't.
Right.
You know,
That's
you can
correct.
start with 5-gallon buckets on your front porch. You know, a cousin of mine. They lived in like a little trailer park area or whatever, and she had said she didn't have a yard to grow anything. I said, go get a swimming pool. She grew tomatoes in a swimming pool, you know? I mean, so you can make it. I tell people, all of y'all watch my YouTube, if it can hold soil and water can run through it, you can grow food in it, you know? I mean, and I spent more time being scared to start growing food. Every seed I plant, I still get so nervous. I'm like, this isn't gonna come up. It's probably not, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like my potatoes, I was like, this probably isn't gonna, even though I grew my potatoes last year in recycled feed sacks. That's another thing. You know, I have, you know, do you have animals but your soil is bad? You have feed sacks. You know, I grew potatoes, tomatoes, and onions, all sorts of stuff in feed sacks last year, you know? You don't have to have a lot, you know, even when it comes, wrapping it back around to the amending the soil. It got to a point where I was like, you know, soil is really expensive and I'm really tired of buying soil. So let's figure out a way to amend it with what I have. And I did that, you know. I mean,
It's been a
small
learning
backyard
process
gardening.
for you all the way through, right? I mean,
Well, whenever I received y'all's email, I was like, I don't know what they want to talk to me about and expertise because I just read books. You know, like I am not an
I
expertise.
think you know more than
yeah.
what you think you know.
Well, and a lot of people say that, you know, but the way that, and wrapping it up into a piece of advice that I would just give anybody or
Yeah.
back to that is start small. Start with 1 bag of potatoes on your front porch. Because once you grow those potatoes, you're gonna be so excited and you're gonna think that you can grow it all, you know? And like last year, that's what I thought, you know, because my first ever garden, I gardened in the winter, you know, and I was like, oh, well, I got this, I can do it. I planted 70 tomatoes last year. Okay, and let me tell you, I couldn't do it. You know, like, so, like some of my tomatoes just didn't make it. It was just so hot where we were at, you know, that, you know, so start small, you know.
Right.
Do not, I mean, I'm not gonna say do not or anything. Like, you start where you're at. We're all in different, I was telling a girl earlier, you can't compare your beginning to somebody's year 5.
Right.
you just can't. It's not fair. It's not fair to you, you know.
That's right.
But start small, you know. Start with, you know, a couple bags on your front porch. If you live in a subdivision, you know, I was talking to the sweet stingers, you know, that
Yes,
y'all talk to
right,
tomorrow.
Justin, yeah.
And we were discussing about, I get a lot of people who live in urban areas that message me and they're like, well, my squash is putting out flowers, but there's no squash. Well, it's because you don't have pollinators. You need some pollinators, and they do pollinators in, you know, town communities and things like that, you know. But start small. Start in your backyard, trying to grow anything, even herb gardens. You know, I mean, I went straight for the gusto and went for the vegetables, and this year I'm just now being able to hone in on my herb garden. You know, I mean, and things you can grow in your windowsill, lettuce, herbs, all of those things you can just grow in a windowsill if there's sun in it. Like, you don't have to have space outside, you know.
So one of the things that my wife does, you know, she plants things around. I mean, in our flowers, we have onions, okay?
Oh, I just,
you know,
yep.
we have that. And the reason that we do so many of those, and it's the green onions that are just coming up, and is because we can just run out there and clip them
I eat out of
and
the
put
yard
them
all
in
the time.
anything that we want to put them in.
Yes.
And it's good to have something like that. But we start with, look, we eat a lot of these things, and that's what we want to start with.
Yes,
right?
that's the. So last year, whenever I attempted to do the garden, I was really focused on market gardening. I was like, I want to just do this market gardening thing, and it didn't turn out how I wanted it to, you know. And I was like, well, it's easy to be like, well, it just didn't work, you know. I'm just not going to be able to do that, you know. I spent all winter, and I was like, this is going to work. There's something deep inside of me that's telling me, do not give up on this, you know.
Yeah.
And so I spent all winter just kind of honing in and learning. Like, I have a small farm, but I want a big crop.
Yeah.
You know, and so I learned to companion plant, to intercrop, like mixing flowers with onions, you know. And my garden this year, like I had to figure out what I needed, you know, what my husband and I needed. I don't need 72 squash plants. Like, I
Right.
just don't need that, you know.
Yeah.
I just need a small amount of squash for my husband and I, and whatever extra we have, we can sell to the community, you
Right.
know. And so I went into my garden this year with a completely different mindset. I wanted to do companion planting for pest control, and I wanted to get a large harvest out of a small area. And I mean, so far, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I've been harvesting squash for a few weeks now, you know, and it's great, you know. It's to be able to walk out to my garden and to pick onions out. The other night I was hungry, and so I went and I grabbed butter crunch lettuce,
Yeah.
tender carrots, some onion tops, some peas, some sugar snap peas. I took it inside and I made it, and it was just walking through my garden, checking for squash bugs, checking for, you know, flea beetles, those, you know, or just checking for things, and just being able to grab it out. And my garden this year compared to last year has just flourished, you know.
Right.
I mean,
Which is probably, you know, what most people would experience if they really stick with it.
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know.
Last year, a lot of people, when it comes to gardening, it's a great idea. It's a wonderful idea. They want to go out into the, you know, bigger box stores and buy all the things.
Right,
And then when
sure.
they get home and they put all of the things in the ground, and then come July, when you need to be up, last year I did 3-a-day waterings. You know, you need to be up
Right.
before 6 a.m. to water your garden. Before I ever knew how to use drip irrigation, you know, or anything like that, you know. I mean, it's literally a labor of love. You see the meme floating around Instagram and Facebook about spent this much on soil, spent this much on the plant starts
Right.
to save 20 cents on a tomato. This is
Makes
what I
no
heard.
dollars and
It
cents
makes
there.
no dollars and cents is what they say, but my rebuttal to that is your harvest is a labor of your love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're out in your garden every day and a huge inspiring YouTube channel I've watched for years is Roots and Refuge, and she has a sticker that a magnet I have on my fridge that says the best medicine for the garden is the gardener.
Yeah.
You know, you have to actually be in your garden for your garden to produce, to harvest, you know. I got an email last year from a girl. She was like, I just want to say, like, way to go for staying with it and being consistent with it, because I know that that's hard work, you know, and it is, you know. I mean, and kudos to the people who work full time and go home and still manage a garden, you know, because I just farm full time, and there's some days I'm like, you think that kale plant will make it till in the morning, you know? but
yeah.
but it's a choice. It's a choice you have to make every single day. You know, it's a choice, like, to get up, like, I don't want to go to Walmart and buy kale, so I'm going to get out and go water my kale, you know? I mean, it's a labor of love, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's where I see the biggest benefit is not having to, like, one might say, well, I saved 20 cents on a tomato, but the security of it and the convenience of being able to just go grab what you need when you need. But again, the biggest thing to me is the security of it, because, you know, that yeah, you might have only saved 20 cents growing your own tomato, but if peanut butter hits the fan, you know that you still have that.
Absolutely.
So that labor of love is
If gas-
rewarded with security.
Absolutely. If gas is $5-6 a gallon and you're on your last $20 in your tank, you know, I live 15 minutes from Walmart. You know, I mean, if you're on a fixed income or a budget of any kind, you know, I mean, that's gas money to get to Walmart and back to where. And the crazy part about the whole food thing is one package of seed costs $1.79.
Crazy.
One package of seed. I have seeds that I've had for, 3-4 years that my beefsteak tomatoes this year, I bought that same seed packet from the co-op 2 years ago. Right. You know, I mean, and I'm still growing seeds out of that one, and I don't have to leave my house. It's right there. And have you priced tomatoes lately? Like, inflation's a thing. Like, I've been watching butter, you know. I tell my husband all the time, we recently got milk goats, so I could mark some things off of the grocery list: cheese, butter, and milk, and cream. You know, and you don't realize how much money you save not going to Walmart. You know, like, you just don't. You know, I don't go there for those things anymore, so it saves me more money in the long run, you know.
Right.
It's in my front yard. If I want to wake up one morning, I don't run out of creamer. I just go milk Pocahontas, you know. I mean,
Yeah. There's a little work involved.
There is.
But there's a lot
there
of reward
is.
for it also.
There is.
And so I wanted to talk about the name Homestead in a Box.
Okay, yeah.
I have an idea why you named it that.
Okay.
But I'm going to let you tell us why you named it Homestead.
Okay,
in a
I
Box.
get this question. I've got this
bet
question
you
so
do.
many times
I love the
today.
name, by the way.
Yes. People have walked by so many times and they're like, Homestead in a Box? Well, I live in a shipping container. So that is where Homestead in a Box comes from. Is I literally live in a 40-foot by 10-foot box. You know,
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of people thought it
Didn't know
was
that.
I had a subscription service or something along those lines. You know, and I had one friend. She was like, "But why do you want to put yourself in a box? Like, you're such an outside of the box person." And I was like, "I live in a shipping container." You know, so it all makes sense to people then.
Yeah.
But yeah, my husband and I, we took a shipping container, and we're in the process still yet of renovating it and turning it into our home. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. You
Yeah.
know, the reason that I thought, and then I'll give it over to you,
Okay.
boss, is I thought it was because you were growing rocks up there, and everything that you put in to plant had to be either in a box or a bag or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, but it works both ways.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've heard lots of people's reasonings of why they thought it was named that.
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
right? Okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a shipping container, so it's a literal box.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, my dream is to buy a shipping container and bury it for my
Bunker.
doomsday
Yeah,
bunker. Because
absolutely.
everybody that listens knows like I'm a pretty hardcore prepper. And,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the Cadillac of preps. There is a
Yeah,
a buried shipping container.
My husband would love to bury our second one, but I mean, we had to blow out our septic tank.
we're gonna have to
basically.
interview Tree.
Oh, good
one
luck.
of these days. I know he don't want to be on it, but he sounds like somebody that we could have an interesting conversation
Oh,
with.
you
anyway.
could talk with him all day,
Right.
all day. I always tell people he's the one really when it comes to, and you and him could visit all day long. I actually read a book recently. It was called Prepper. I got it from the library, and I had learned that they have underground. Well, I always knew about these underground bunkers all over, However, in the book, the gentleman had went and experienced one, and with the guy that makes a lot of them and things like that, And after reading the book, I was like, we could totally put a container under the ground, Like it's not a bad idea,
Right. Yeah.
Except we live on a rock.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of that,
You're in real estate, so.
I do have a jack. I got to buy a jackhammer to knock up this concrete slab behind my house, and you live right up the road. So if you ever need a jackhammer to knock some of those rocks out, just give me a call.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Use it.
Yes.
Which brings up the point of building relationships in your local community.
Yeah.
Is a resource that is invaluable to prepping, and when I mean prepping, I mean preparing. Okay, so trying to getting closer to wrapped up. Before we get off here, I want to talk a little bit about your product line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I want you to grab just grab something over there and
Okay.
then tell us about it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll just do this.
Yeah. We'll at the end of this, we'll show your table lined up too.
Okay. So what I do is I make all natural, basically hygiene products, and I did that. We've caught on. I lived on an 18-wheeler, and my husband, he is y'all would love him, but he's the one. He was like, "Let me see your deodorant," and he was like, "Oh, we're tossing that," and he was like, "Check out this deodorant I have," and it was like some charcoal. I was like. He's like, you have to hold it on your armpits and then rub it. And I was like, why? And he got into telling me about like all of the toxins and stuff and what the things they allow here to put in our products, And so I went down that rabbit hole, and that is a very deep rabbit hole. I mean, it's a very deep rabbit hole. And I was like, oh no, I text all of the women in my family, and I was like, we're, off with it, And so when you're on an 18-wheeler, like, what do you have more to do except to ride? And I was like, I'd found a deodorant recipe. And I was like, well, I'm going to make this because we have a little hot box, And so we were traveling across the country, and that's where I made my first batch of lavender deodorant was on an 18-wheeler. And I was like, this actually works. I was like, smell, He was like, I was like, no, it works, And it worked. So I've actually been making it for now close to like 3.5 years. Last September, everybody wants to, find a way to market their farm and to make money, make money on their farm, And I was like, what am I gonna do? I had tried the t-shirts, I had tried all of that. I was originally in healthcare, but whenever you have a farm, you have to be home all day, And so my husband was like, you should really sell your deodorants, like, cause him and I had been wearing them, And I sat on it for a long time, and I was just nervous that they'd be rejected and nobody would want them or anything like that. And once I finally did make them, I mean, people love them. They're all natural products.
I would just want to smell.
Yeah, absolutely. That's.
I smell your woods.
Yes. So that one.
Probably what I'm smelling. By the way, folks, I'm sitting in the most amazing aroma right now, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but we are at the 2023 Okie Homesteading Expo here with Leah, and discussing our products right now. And there's a lot of good smells in the air back here. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's new. I just released that here.
I love
it's
that.
not even on my website yet.
Tranquil.
Yeah, I'm all about some peace and.
Yeah. So
the Woodsman, everyone said, oh, you should create a men's line, but I wear it.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. That's nice.
This is my most popular.
But that one is your most popular?
No, but you all are the first ones to really see the Tranquil, so.
We're the first ones?
Yeah. They just came out today.
Take my picture.
Coconut oil.
Yeah, so it's all natural products. You don't want to leave them in like your boat or your car,
Right.
But yeah, it's just coconut oil, beeswax, shea butter, vitamin E.
Did you get some of these?
I got lavender.
You got lavender? I think you need to pick up some more. I mean, I'm going to want a couple of those. I know all three of those smells were amazing, but there was one I was really particularly.
The Tranquil,
Tranquil.
Yeah, it smells really, really good. So yeah, when I put them on Etsy, people were like, "Oh, these work. These work really well."
And that's the hard part, right? I mean, to get something that's good for you that works.
Well, and that's why I've told a lot of people today, take a card, scan it, because it's one thing to go and buy deodorant from somebody that sits in an office all day long.
Yeah.
I don't sit in an office all day long, and there's proof of it. I am outside all day, every day in the garden, taking care of animals, and it works.
Right. And we ain't smelled this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we were at a family function here a while back, and somebody had said something, and my brother was like, well, none of us smell because we're all wearing your deodorant, And I was like, that's true. But so I started out with deodorant, and then I moved into chapsticks and things. My main goal is to use to forage items from our property that I can infuse oils with that are help for like dandelion. I have lotion bars made with dandelions that I foraged and infused my own oils with. And then, we have the bug repellent lotion bars. Everything is all natural. There's no fake fragrances. It's all high quality essential oils, and my main thing is I want things to work for me.
Yeah.
And so I try out everything, and if it works for me, I'm like, okay, it might work for somebody else. We're gonna try it, and we're gonna see. And I send out to people who testers and stuff to people around our area, bugs, mosquitoes, all of that.
Right.
And I won't sell it unless it works. Now I've had a few people who's my deodorant does have baking soda in it. It's just got a real small trace of baking soda in it. And sometimes people's pH in their body is sensitive to that, know? Mm-hmm. And so it may not work for you, and that's okay too. But for the majority of the people, I highly encourage people to check out Etsy reviews because they're there, And for me, I never... Even now, with YouTube and all of this, I never in a million years thought this is what I would be doing. I just started, and there's days where I want to quit, but I remember my why I started.
And you got to always go back to your why.
If you do not have I have a YouTube video about it. It's called knowing your why. If you do not have a solid why, you're gonna give up on your garden. You're going to give up on, you're going to be you're going to give up. You're going to say, yeah, I'd much rather sit inside and have this cold glass of tea than go out there, if you don't have a good, solid why. Why are you doing this,
That's it. Yeah, always remember your why.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to kind of wrap this up. And there's something that on our show, what we do at the end of every show, we have a saying.
Okay, you're not gonna make me eat bugs, are you?
Yeah, we
That was
won't.
the last.
No, we ate the bugs so you don't have to. That's what Josh said. Okay, we tested it, and we've peer reviewed our answer to bugs, and he was my peer, and I was his peer, and my brother was. So we've peer reviewed it, and the answer to us is no.
Yeah.
But anyway, no. At the end of our show, it's one of the things that the Farm to Table Direct show, really tries to push. It was one of our whys. Why did we get started? And we got started because with everything that we've seen going on in the world, same thing that you've experienced, and we decided that we couldn't just sit by and say nothing about what was going on. So we began to speak out a little bit, and we're very passionate about it. And so what it's come down to is that we believe that we need to arrest control of centralized food back into our own hands, right? Even if it's not me personally growing, maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody else, but we're building relationships in our local community so that we bring things back home. And so we think that that's where food security really lies, is in your own self-sufficiency.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, right at the end of our shows, and we can practice if you want to, but we always say it, and it is prepare for the unexpected and keep it local.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're about to say goodbye, but before I do, I want to thank Leah.
Okay.
For being so gracious enough to share with us, and I know that I'll be seeing her probably a little more often.
I had no
idea we were neighbors.
Right, we're neighbors, and I really, really wanted to say thank you, for doing that, and I appreciate the fact that you love your animals.
I do.
And this product, I will be taking some of that home with me today.
Thank you.
So until next time, Leah.
Wow.
Prepare for the unexpected
and
keep it local. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. You ready?
Okay, yep. Prepare for the unexpected and keep it local.